Hello, everyone. Have you ever been to a museum? How would you feel if you could walk the halls of a giant 1.5 million square foot structure filled with all of the remnants of our past here on Earth? A visit to the Smithsonian Museum would give you that opportunity. But walking through such a large building filled with historical artifacts and exhibits, would you even notice the architecture? Would you look around at the walls and the pillars and the arches? Would those stand out to you amongst all the prehistoric creatures and exhibits that they have inside? Most people would not notice the neoclassical design of the structure itself. They would be more interested in what's inside the exhibits. Within the walls of the world's largest, foremost recent research center, it seems that nobody would wonder about the walls, the arches, or the pillars. So let's take some time to learn about the building that's surrounding the past. I've never been to a museum myself, but I've always wanted to see the Smithsonian, especially after watching A Night at the Museum. Now I know that the exhibits aren't going to come to life when I visit, but I never would have thought that the walls would have been something that I would notice. So for this speech, I was able to learn about the building of the Natural History Museum. So the first thing I want to talk about is the controversy behind the design. There was division amongst the architects. The main architects were supposed to be Mr. Hornblower and Mr. Marshall. But there was a Mr. Burnham and a Mr. McKim that, in secrecy, started making their own designs. And there was many redesigns, both secret and public, of the museum. The museum was built as a mandate by the Senate Park Commission to beautify the area of DC. Some of the buildings that inspired the Natural History Museum were found in the Louvre in Paris, Cluny Museum, Guimet Museum, and the London Natural History Museum. And for that, I have a little bit of a comparison. So this is the Smithsonian as it is today. You can see the arches and the dome and the pillars here, and the windows, the long windows down, and then those small windows at the top. Then I also have a picture of the London Natural History Museum, which, as you can see, here's the dome, which influenced the first thing, the arches and the many windows down along the lines. And I know I wasn't supposed to have three, but I wanted to show the comparison. So this is the Louvre in Paris, and it also has the many windows that go down the line. It has the arc here and here, and it has the arches. They're a little bit bigger on here, but that's what influenced the museum as it is today. The architect traveled around the world visiting Europe. They went to the most notable places for the museums that they visited, which influenced the building of the Smithsonian, were in Paris, Vienna, London, obviously the one that I showed you there, Berlin, Germany, Dresden, and Munich were their most notable visual effects where they took design ideas from. January 1903, they reverted back to earlier designs. The Smithsonian underwent many redesigns. They recruited young architects from Paris because they were so interested in the design of the Louvre and the museum in Vienna. So they went for bringing in new architects that were newly minted and for fresh ideas. So the Smithsonian ended up adopting a very brazen, very fashionistic French design, heavily influenced by the Louvre. So today we talked about the controversy, which lasted throughout the years of the Smithsonian being redesigned from 1903 to 1910. The Smithsonian underwent many more redesigns before the classic Roman style, which is the last design here, with the pillars and the arc here and the dome. Very Roman, classical, neoclassical design here. The Roman design was actually decided by the Senate Park Commission. So after all the redesigns of the Smithsonian, the Senate Park Commission, who had commissioned the building, and they had approved a 400,000-foot building at that time, and they wanted it to be in a Roman classic design. So that's what they finally decided on after many redesigns and a lot of controversy So I hope you learned a little something new today. It was a very interesting speech to do to study the Smithsonian. If you ever do visit the Smithsonian or any museum, make sure you take the time to look at the architecture and see, what you notice as far as arches and pillars and maybe where the designs were influenced. So thank you for listening, and I hope you enjoyed this presentation.